the most sparsely populated district of Russia with stunning landscapes and bitter coldness. That's just the introduction to Nenetsia, but there's loads more to find out, so don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome to 7 Facts. The Nenets Autonomous Okrug is a place you probably never heard of, but I'm here to tell you it exists. This is one of Russia's federal subjects, sort of like the states in the US. This Okrug, which by the way means district, isn't a completely separate thing. It's a part of the larger Arkhangelsk Oblast. However, it is an autonomous region, which legally speaking is on equal footing with the rest of the country's federal subjects. This Okrug, like the others, was established to represent the so-called indigenous people of the north, in this case the Nenets people. While it's by no means a small district, Nenets is very sparsely populated. It has the smallest population out of all of Russia's subjects. Barely 44,000 people live here, an average of only one person per every 4 square kilometers. Intrigued as to why? Keep watching to find out. Despite lying in the far northeastern corner of Europe, the territory of Nenets has been continuously inhabited for about 10,000 years. But after such a long time, most of the stories of those people have been lost in time. We can say that the history of the current entity began around the 11th century AD, when the first recorded presence of the Nenets people was noted in Kievan Chronicles. The Nenets migrated here from the valleys of the Ob River further south and are a Uralic nation, related to Mordvins, Khantas, Mansis and more distantly to Finns, Hungarians, Estonians and Sami. During and after the Middle Ages, this area came under the influence of Kievan Rus, Novgorod and Muscovy, all precursors of modern Russia. For most of the time since, this area and the indigenous people living here passed under the radar and were relatively unnoticed. It was only in Soviet times, in 1929, that the Nenets received a wider autonomy. Even though they represent a small minority, they had and still have certain liberties in the way they organize their communities. The capital of Nenets is the town of Naryan-Mar. Only 21,000 people live here, but that doesn't mean they don't matter. Naryan-Mar is an important river port on the Pechora River that connects it to the Barents Sea. This means that it's a vital supply line for the entire region, and for that reason it became the only developed commercial port in an area of several thousand square kilometers. By the way, Naryan-Mar lies completely beyond the Arctic Circle, but don't let that fool you. It might be a quaint and isolated place, but it has a pretty well-developed tourism infrastructure with hotels and saunas for all visitors. Be prepared though, winters are long and cold, and don't forget that, because it lies closer to the North Pole, most of the winter days remain dark, and summer days have way more sunlight than what we're used to. Before we get to the next fact, I'd like to ask you something. This video isn't sponsored, so perhaps you'd consider supporting this channel by becoming a patron. If you still enjoy my content, go visit my Patreon page and help this channel out. And with that said, let's go to fact number 4. So who are these Nenets people? Let's learn a bit more about this nation. Also known as the Samoyeds, they represent roughly 19% of the Okrug's population, which translates into about 7,500 people. Traditionally, they're reindeer herders who still follow their ancient traditions, such as dressing in reindeer skins or sleeping in chums, which are teepee-like tents. Of course, many of them have converted to more modern ways of life, but not all of them. Nenets, by the way, means human being in their language, which is a Uralic language, distantly related to their Baltic and Central European counterparts of the same family. They live in separate areas and are thus called according to their surroundings, the Tundra Nenets and the Forest Nenets. These two groups' languages have drifted so much apart that they now almost qualify as separate languages. The Nenets are among the most unique and ancient nations left on the planet, and protecting them is well worthwhile. The Nenets' belief system seems to come from the farthest reaches of history. The Nenets believe that their harsh life of the tundra mirrors the spiritual battle in another world between the sky god Num and the forces of good and the underworld god Nna and the forces of evil. This battle sets the rhythm of the seasons, with Num prevailing in the summer and Nna holding sway in the winter. They still practice ritual sacrifices of reindeers and make offerings to the gods. Another interesting aspect of the Nenets' views on the world is that for them, things are not just simply beautiful. It's not the individual aspects of an object or an event that makes them beautiful. To quote Andrei Golovnev, a Russian anthropologist, for the Nenets, beauty is in the ABC of what makes the world tick. The main reason why Nenets has such a low population is because most of it lies beyond the Arctic Circle. The region is vast, very sparsely populated and, yes, cold. Very cold. The average temperature in January ranges from -3 degrees Celsius on the coast to -22 degrees in the southeast. In July, from +8 to +16 degrees Celsius respectively, but these are only averages. Despite this, visitors would likely be most interested in Nenetsia's incredible Arctic coastline, its reindeer herders, and its otherworldly lake-abundant tundra landscapes. Also, Pechora, Europe's third largest river, discharges into the Arctic Ocean here, where it forms a unique delta. So you see, even the harshest places on Earth have their hidden beauties. As I said in the beginning of the video, Nenetsia is at the same time a part of the Arkhangelsk Oblast and a separate autonomous district with its own legislative body and budget. But in 2020, the heads of Arkhangelsk proposed a complete merger between the two. The incentive was quite simple. Nenetsia is a district rich in oil and natural gas deposits and thus is one of Russia's best-standing subjects economy-wise. However, this initiative was met with public resistance and the referendum, which is mandatory in the case of mergers, was postponed. The anxieties relating to this merger result from previous mergers. Russia used to have more autonomous okrugs than it does today. The idea is simple: centralization of power. But autonomous okrugs have significant ethnic minorities, so in general, mergers are not exactly viewed with favor. For now, Nenetsia remains with its autonomy. Whether that will change in the future or not, I guess we'll see. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Leave your comments downstairs and don't forget there's a Patreon page where you can support this channel. I hope to see you next time. Bye.